I'm smoking this dope with that top bag. Ooh, I heard that she like that. She sent me that message, but I didn't type it. You done me before.
What is going on, guys? Back with another daily podcast for the love of the sports. You know, we stay putting out these videos every day for you content watchers out there. And big news today, guys. Big news. Deshaun Watson officially requests a trade out of Houston. We all knew it was coming, and today is the day that he officially requests a trade. We'll see what happens next year. We'll definitely see what happens next. The Jets seem like the front runners to getting Deshaun Watson. I'm just curious about what they can give up for him because they have that number 2 pick this year in the draft, which seems to me in order to get Watson, you would have to give that up. I've read a lot of trades where that pick is included, but to me it's like if that pick is included, there goes Watson's receiver because they're probably going to draft the receiver number 2 if they do get Deshaun Watson. If they somehow don't give up that pick, I'm assuming Sam Darnold is going to be involved in that trade. But a lot of the trade rumors I've seen, he's actually not involved in the trade, which is bizarre. Maybe they have other intentions of trading him to another team in exchange for another player, but we'll see what happens. And it seems like Watson's on his way out for 100% now at this point. And, whoever gets him, I'm telling you, man, that's going to be a big 360 for their franchise. If it's a losing team, they're going to do a lot better. I mean, the Jets, pathetic the last few years. I mean, that team is going to go to a winning record, in my opinion. Because they got a new head coach, finally got rid of Adam Gase. Took a long time. Somehow, I don't know how he was still there for that long. They got Salad there from the Niners, man. That guy's going to bring some authority into that team, something that they definitely need. And, who's to say that, they won't have a better record than the Dolphins next year with Watson if they can acquire him. And like I said, I think for sure if they somehow keep that number 2 pick, they're going to draft a receiver. They're going to get Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith. That's pretty much what I've been seeing, and they kind of have to. I mean, if they go out and get Watson, they have to do the best they can in surrounding him with talent. And, it's going to be the same old story with him if they don't end up drafting a receiver because they have nobody in New York. So that's kind of the weird thing about it is their team really isn't that good. And every single trade I see is like to that team, the New York Jets. I've seen some of them today, which I don't think are possible and I don't think are going to happen. Like I've seen Denver Broncos associated with one of the trades. I've seen the Atlanta Falcons associated with one of the trades because they do have that 6th pick and they're probably going to draft a quarterback too. But, it's pretty much going to be who's going to give them the best offer. And the Texans made a terrible mistake in, letting Watson get to this point because they had the franchise quarterback that they wanted. He's been terrific for them. The team just didn't surround him at all with any talent. And it's obviously evident on his now trade, he wants to be traded out of there. And I don't blame him because, they traded his best receiver last offseason, DeAndre Hopkins, behind his back. Bill O'Brien did a terrible job, I think, managing that team, and they just hired the new GM from the Patriots, Caserio, and obviously that was behind Watson's back because he actually had absolutely no input on it, and that's pretty much was the nail in the coffin for him, I think, in getting traded because I think when he's seen that happen after they promised him that he was going to have say in the front office decisions, I think that was really it because, Watson is their franchise, and for them to not even run by who they're going to pick as GM or run by, they just hired a head coach as well, probably didn't run it by him either. And they probably didn't run it by him either because they probably know he's already on his way out. It's just one of those situations where I think they really screwed up because the Texans had their guy. They had their franchise quarterback, and there's not one team in the NFL that was going to tell me that Deshaun Watson isn't a top 5 quarterback, talent-wise, 100%. He threw for over, almost 5,000 yards this year, over 30 touchdowns, and the team was horrendous. They went 4-12. So Deshaun Watson's legit, man, and whoever gets him is definitely going to be a lot better. And, the Jets, like I said, seem like the front runners to get him. I'm surprised, though, he even wants to go there because talent-wise, they're worse than Houston. Like, they're definitely worse. At least Houston had Brandon Cooks, who was pretty good. They had Will Fuller, who was still pretty good. Those two guys are better than any Jets receiver they have right now. 100%. I mean, Jamison Crowder's there. They got Brashard Perriman. They drafted Denzel Mims last year. I mean, this past year, who didn't really amount to anything. He was pretty much injured the whole year. Rookie out of Baylor. And, they're worse off offensively. They don't even have a running back. They have no running back. Ty Johnson is their running back. Frank Gore was their starting running back. He was 38 years old running the ball for the Jets last year. And they have a lot of positions there they need to, upgrade on. They traded literally everybody they had. They traded Jamal Adams. They traded Leonard Williams they literally traded every single pick they had. Muhammad Wilkerson a couple years. They just continue to trade players, and they're not getting anyone for them. They're not even, the draft picks haven't turned out to be good. It's just, they're in for, a rude awakening if they don't get them, because what's going to happen is they're going to be stuck with Sam Darnold, with nobody. And that's been the problem for years already. They just can't surround Darnold with anybody. And he's just so limited to what he can do in New York because, as a young quarterback in the league, I think Darnold has all the potential in the world, and I think he's just been wasted with Adam Gase. He's been wasted with no weapons. And I blame that on the organization. From the top down, they've done a terrible job surrounding them with talent, and that just goes to show, who wants to play for the Jets. That's why I'm so surprised that Watson actually wants to go there. They've been such a horror story for the last few years. And honestly, they haven't even been relevant for how many already since they had Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan. They made it to those AFC championship games. Other than that, they've been horrendous the last few years. Laughing stock of the NFL. So we'll see where Deshaun Watson goes. It looks like he's going to go there. Looks like it's about to be 75% he's going to the Jets. But like I said, if they don't surround him with talent, I think it's a bad decision by him. I don't think he should go there if that's the case. They are front runners because of all their draft picks. They have, the number 2 pick this year. They have a very high-end pick next year. And then they're going to give them a variety of other picks. So they definitely got the package that could be the best for them. But like I said, if they got to include Darnold in that trade, because if I'm Houston, they're going to literally have nobody to start at quarterback. Nobody. Because their backup quarterback is like a fourth stringer. He's terrible in the games he's played in. So we'll see what happens with that. And Big Ben came out today, says, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be back next season. Of course he's pretty sure that he's going to make $41 million against the cap next year. $41 million for Big Ben. That is just unbelievable at this point in his career. 38 years old, and that's a huge problem. And he goes, if the Steelers will have me back, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be back, is what he said, end quote. And obviously he's not worth anywhere close to $41 million at this point in his career. I don't think at any point he's worth $41 million, but especially now. And, they're up to, they're going to have a tough decision because what are they going to do with Big Ben? Realistically, he's on the books for another year. What are they going to do, cut him and eat $41 million or half of that, whatever it is when you cut a player? Then that's not going to happen. And if Big Ben's smart, he should come back. Why would you not come back for $41 million in the last year of your career? I mean, that's by far his biggest payday. And these teams are stupid because they always put the money on their contracts on the back end of their deals. And by the time they're, 38, 39 years old, they're like washed up. And it looks terrible because they're going to pay a quarterback that's literally mediocre at best top 5 quarterback money, because that's exactly what's going to happen. They're literally going to pay Big Ben top 5 quarterback money as a 39-year-old veteran. And they're going to have literally no room to do anything because they're going to lose Bud Dupree, great defensive player, and they're going to lose other free agents because they literally can't afford anybody now because of his contract. And I think it's a shame because I think the Steelers have all the potential in the world to be a great team. And, this is just going to destroy their franchise, I think, because they have a huge rebuilding phase now. If I were them, I would try to trade Big Ben immediately. I don't know who would want to pick up that contract. Probably nobody. But the thing is, they're going to have to eat some of that contract, realistically, because if they do move him or he does retire or whatever else happens, they still have guaranteed money they owe to him. And at this point, you kind of just have to cut your losses and do it because so what if you pay Big Ben $20 million? It's better than $41. And let another team pay the rest at this point, because at this point it just doesn't look good for the Steelers, and they're like held hostage by his contract at this point. So they gotta either draft somebody or they gotta seriously sign somebody, because they've done a terrible job drafting his replacement the last few years. They've drafted literally so many quarterbacks to replace him over the years. Mason Rudolph, the list goes on. They all turn out to be terrible, and it's surprising because they have such a stacked offense. So many good receivers on that team. Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith, they have Chase Claypool. They're by far the best team at drafting receivers in the league. Steelers have drafted literally gems, going back to Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, and Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick. Deontay Johnson was a 3rd-round pick. They've done a great job at drafting receivers, so that's not a problem for them. It's just they can't draft a quarterback at this point, and that's been the issue with them the last few years. They've already spent at least 5 draft picks the last 6 years trying to draft Big Ben's replacement and haven't been able to do it. So at this point, they got to look to free agency, in my opinion, because if not, I have no faith in them drafting a quarterback because it just hasn't happened yet. I don't envision it happening soon. Their pick is still low this year because they had a great record. So their pick is obviously not going to be a good quarterback. All the good quarterbacks I think are going to go in the top 15 picks. I think 5 or 4 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10, which is going to be surprising to a lot of people, but that's what I think is going to happen. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. I think a lot of good receivers, a lot of good offensive weapons, and they're going to go very early. And obviously the teams that don't trade up, the Steelers don't have, they don't have the trade package, I don't think, to even move up because a lot of their picks have been gone. They traded a lot of them to the Dolphins when they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they don't really have as many picks as they should at this point. So they're kind of stuck in the water about it. So we'll see what happens with Big Ben and his $41 million, but I don't see that ending good. I don't see that ending good at all in Pittsburgh because, like I said, they're just going to be stuck with him, I think, for one more year, and that's it. And then they'll have to rebuild again after next year. No one's going to take that contract. Realistically, they're going to be a decent team because they got the weapons this year, but they're going to be limited with Big Ben's arm. The guy has no arm strength anymore, cannot throw the ball deep whatsoever, very inaccurate at this point in his career. And, he's just like a basic, mediocre quarterback. So we'll see what happens with that. And moving on to some NBA news, Joel Embiid last night. What a game that was between him, the 76ers, and the Lakers. 76ers ended up winning by 1 point in regulation. What a game. Tobias Harris, the game winner. Tough shot over, I think it was Caruso that switched on to him. LeBron was originally on him on that play. But Joel Embiid had some words to say. He said that LeBron should have been ejected for the foul on him. And he goes, if it was me, I definitely would have been ejected. And that's back to the superstar treatment. Honestly, when I saw it, I thought it was a flagrant, which they ended up calling it a flagrant. And, I think it was borderline if it was a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2 because, it ended up being only a flagrant 1, obviously. But, a lot of people, and obviously Joel Embiid thought it was a flagrant 2. So, those superstars obviously get that treatment. I think LeBron has only been thrown out of 1 game in his entire career, and it was for arguing a call against Miami. I remember this game was a couple years back. I think it was 2016 in Cleveland. They were winning by 20, and he got ejected for the first time in his career. That was the only time he's ever been ejected. So, obviously, the NBA and the league does not want to eject their superstar player, and I think that was pretty evident last night because, it was true, and that's why players get upset because, Harden, LeBron, all these superstar players undoubtedly get calls that mediocre players wouldn't get. And guaranteed, if that was a foul that was done to LeBron James by a basic player, they would have been ejected automatically. Flagrant 2, you would have been ejected right away. And, I understand they're protecting their players and they're protecting LeBron James. And who wants to watch a game with no LeBron James for the last 5 minutes? Nobody, obviously. That's the reason why they don't eject him. I understand their point of view behind it, but it is, when you do look at it from Joel Embiid or, a fan's perspective, especially a fan of the Sixers last night, that game would have been completely over if LeBron James got ejected. It was like a 5-point game when that happened, and it ended up being a 10-point game later on in that quarter. And the Lakers had a huge comeback within the last 3 minutes of that game. They cut it to 1 point, then they actually took the lead by 1 point. And, they would have lost that game. LeBron wouldn't have been there for any of that. He would have been ejected with 5 minutes remaining. He did definitely push off on him, 100%. When you watch the replay over, he definitely extended his arms outwards, definitely pushed him away from the basket. And Embiid really could have gotten hurt on that play. I was surprised they didn't look at it immediately for a flagrant. It literally took them to, review it in order to even see that it was a flagrant foul. Literally, when I was watching it live, I was like, dude, that was 100% a flagrant foul. Like I said, I just didn't know if it was 1 or 2. And, anytime you extend your arms on a player dunking the ball, that's cause for concern. The guy literally had nowhere to land, and he ended up slamming on his back. Luckily, Embiid didn't get hurt. And it was even worse because Embiid missed last game with a sore back, and he literally landed full speed on his back. Honestly, looked painful. I'm surprised he even got up and played the rest of the game, but that's a problem in the NBA. Joel Embiid said it right. Superstar players get definitely superstar treatment, and that's just one example of how LeBron James has got superstar treatment for literally his entire career. And the NBA, they know that. Believe me, they know that. They know that, they're protecting their superstars. They do it every season. That's why you only see LeBron get ejected once. How many times did Michael Jordan get ejected? I don't even know. Like, what did he play? 14, 15 years? I think he got ejected twice. I think that's what I was reading yesterday. So not a lot of times either. And, there's other players like Draymond Green and DeMarcus Cousins literally doing anything. They get ejected automatically. Literally automatically for literally nothing. And how many times already this season DeMarcus Cousins is a role player, plays maybe 20 minutes a game on Houston. He's already been ejected like 3 times. That's 2 more times than LeBron James has been ejected his entire career in one season. And he plays 20 minutes a game. And if you don't think that they actually target players like that, you got to be kidding me. Because literally there's like a handful of players in the NBA that are known for technical fouls and flops. And they're literally consistently called for flagrant fouls. Look at Marcus Smart on the Celtics. He's like consistently called for flopping now because the NBA knows he does it. And same thing with technical fouls. He's always like the league leader in technical fouls on that team. On the Celtics, always is. So those are like the 3 main guys in the NBA. It's Cousins, Draymond Green, and Marcus Smart. Literally, like, the NBA has them by like the balls at this point. And literally it's just like anything you do that's somewhat borderline, you're getting attacked and getting thrown out. And it's so unfair because like some of the stuff they do isn't even borderline. Like for a normal player, that wouldn't even been it would be like a common foul at worst. I literally seen Cousins get ejected for no worse than like a play. And they just, they eject him, give him a quick tech, and that's it. And I think it's complete BS, in my opinion. Literally is BS. Because they take him out of the game. Their team doesn't have him. They ejected Cousins twice this year in the first quarter. In the first quarter. For things that are literally borderline, suspect, complete BS fouls. And he goes crazy. Cousins goes crazy. I would be going crazy too if it was me. If I was getting ejected in the first quarter for literally nothing, but if the same player did it opposite to him, nothing would even happen. Like, that's bullshit, dude. And it really is. And that's why people get mad. That's why Embiid literally came out and said that. If it was me, I would have been ejected. But if it's LeBron, he doesn't get ejected. Yeah, that's facts. That's true. And I have to agree with him. And that's why most of the players can't stand LeBron because that reason. He literally gets every call. He's been known for years as the NBA's one of the biggest NBA complainers as far as fouls and just like literally everything. He's one of my favorite players, so I can't even speak on that myself. But I mean, I know it. I can admit it. I see it every game. He's complaining every game. And if that was literally anyone else, it would be technical fouls. It would be literally getting thrown out. Because last night he should have got thrown out, in my opinion. And, it is what it is at this point. But, the NBA, again, last night, look at Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, again, 47 points. Again, Bradley Beal, and they still lost. I'm looking at the box score right now. Let me pull it up quickly from last night. Just pathetic again. Bradley Beal again carrying his team to another loss. It's ongoing for the Washington Wizards. And honestly, at this point, I don't ever see them getting better. I really don't. I don't see them ever improving. Look at this. They lost 124 to 106. And obviously a blowout. Again and again. 47 points for Beal. Shot 17 of 37 from the field. 6 of 14 from downtown. 7 of 7 from the free throw line. Had 4 steals, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. This is pathetic. Literally only one other player in their starting lineup scored in double figures. It was Robin Lopez. Robin Lopez was the only guy on their team to score in double figures besides him in the starting lineup. He had 14 points. Terrible. And you wonder why the guy wants to get traded. Russell Westbrook, again, nowhere to be found. Didn't even play. It's like a automatic thing now that Westbrook is automatically out on a back-to-back. And for what? What does he have? Sore knees? Was that what they classify it as? Sore knees? Is that why he's out every back-to-back? I mean, come on, dude. Your team is 3-10. You can't sit out every game on a back-to-back. Your team is not performing at all. It's not Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers last year. He had the luxury of sitting out because the team was on its way to the playoffs. This guy is literally sitting out and the team is 3-10. That's the reason. Like, this guy is not a team player. I would never want him on my team. I said that yesterday in the podcast. Terrible fit for, the Washington Wizards. And, who's to say that they both don't get traded within this year? Probably will. Bradley Beal, I think, is long gone. There's no chance I would stay if I were him. Why would you ever stay on that team? Literally, they burned their bridge a long time ago and they didn't get him help. Look at their record. Like I said yesterday, the worst record in the NBA, 3-11. Worse than the Bulls, worse than the Timberwolves. The list goes on. And like I said, I think he's getting traded by the next month or two. That's max. I think he'll be traded quicker than that because every game he's playing in disgust. It's obvious. It looks terrible for the franchise at this point. I mean, look at the records that the team has. They're almost as bad as the Pistons. They are worse than the Pistons. They're worse than Minnesota. The Heat somehow are 6-11. I don't see that's good. I think that's going to change very soon. And then the Pelicans too, 6-10. I don't know how that team can be 6-10. They have a great roster, and Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Steven Adams, Lonzo Ball, Eric Bledsoe, JJ Redick. That's a great team too to go 6-10 on the year. That's very disappointing. They're worse than their division. I heard they want to trade Eric Bledsoe and Lonzo Ball. They're both on the trade they're both on the trade clock right now. I think that Lonzo is going to get traded in the next 2 weeks, if I were to guess. Bledsoe probably too, because honestly, they don't mesh well at all. Eric Bledsoe, I thought, was decent at best, and Milwaukee, I think, destroyed them in that trade, trading Drew Holiday, and they got Bledsoe and someone else. What a bonehead decision that was. Drew Holiday is by far the better player, and Eric Bledsoe, what is he average? 13 points a game he's averaging. 13 points and 4 rebounds, 4 assists. That's just like basic numbers in the NBA now. That's basic numbers, basic bench numbers for some guys. Lonzo Ball, and what is this? How many years he's been in the league now? He's been in the league for 3-4 years now. Still only 23 years old, but I mean, they cannot put it all together. He's playing 30.5 minutes a game this year. He's only averaging 11.5 points, 4 assists. His brother's already outperforming him as a rookie. And, I've read some things. He could go to, Golden State. Could go. I don't know why Golden State would want him, honestly, because Golden State apparently wants to trade him for Kelly Oubre, who's actually playing much better than Lonzo. It's another guard, too, and he can't shoot, so it makes no sense for him to go to Golden State. They already got Wiggins there that can't really shoot. They got Clay hopefully coming back next year, but I don't think Lonzo Ball is a good fit at all on that team. I thought Lonzo Ball was going to be a great fit with the Pelicans. Obviously, he's not. They just can't put it all together. He had a better season last year, I thought. At least he was rebounding and passing better last year. He's not even doing that this year. Still only averaging less than 12 points. He's never averaged more than 12 points in his entire career. Been in the league 4 years. His career average is 11 points per game, just under 11 points per game. So I think they have big decisions in New Orleans as well, and we'll see what happens. That team is loaded with talent, and they're just going to get wasted on that team. I guess there's only one ball, and not all of them can touch it. Brandon Ingram's also not doing as good as he's still doing pretty decent. He's averaging 24 points, 48% from the field, but still not good enough. And Zion, I think, is by far their best player now. I thought Zion was going to be their best player, and he is. Now averaging 24 points, leading their team in scoring. Also rebounding a lot better now this year than he was last year, and that's not surprising at all. People always think that Zion's going to be rebounding. He's only 6'7". He's averaging almost 9 rebounds a game. He's not that big at all. I mean, sure, he has that crazy athleticism, but, people always think he's much bigger than 6'7". He's like 6'7", that's a generous 6'7". I think he was 6'6" is what he actually checked in as. So, for him to be averaging almost 9 rebounds a game, 24 points, really good. Really, really good. And I expected them to do better, and maybe they will turn it around this year, but, they're not looking good so far. 6-10 is definitely not where I thought they were going to be at. And, the West is so loaded. That's another issue that they're going to run into. I mean, the Grizzlies are in the 8th seed right now. They're 7-6. The Suns are 8-8. Mavericks 8-10. There's been a lot of slow starts in the Western Conference this year. So I think a lot of those teams will turn around. I think the Mavericks get in. in my opinion. I think they're going to sneak in the playoffs. I think they're too good. Luka's too good not to at least get an 8th seed or 7th seed. The Grizzlies and the Suns are the scary teams there because I don't know which one of those teams are going to drop out. I thought the Suns were going to get in, but they're only 8-8. And they started off hot. They lost 3 straight already. So the Grizzlies, though, since Morant's been back, look at that guy. 5 in a row already they've won. That guy is obviously the difference maker on that team. I think one of the best point guards. And look at the Jazz. The Jazz, they've won 10 straight games. They're number 1 in the league now, 14-4. They're having a terrific season. Jazz are going to be a very tough out. Mike Conley Jr. is like rejuvenated in Utah this year, playing totally different than he was last year. Donovan Mitchell, another great season. So they got stacked. I mean, they got a stacked lineup. I mean, look at their team. They got Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson leading the team, second in scoring, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Ingles, Royce O'Neal, Derek Favors. Very deep team. They're like 12 deep. They play like at least 10 guys a game. So that's going to be a very tough out. I mean, I don't envision them winning the Western Conference, but they could go pretty far. Definitely pretty far with that lineup. Gobert's an animal inside. Probably the best center in the West, if not Jokic. I think Jokic is number 1, then Gobert's 2. Pure centers, I think. Guy averages like 4 blocks a game, 15 rebounds with Gobert. It's the Twin Tower inside. So see what happens with them. But, I mean, that's pretty much it for the podcast. It's really not massive news today. I'm going to be on another show probably, I think 9:30 tonight. I'm supposed to be on one, so we'll see what happens there. But as always, guys, appreciate you guys for tuning in for the Love of Sports podcast. I'm going to try to get to do, most of these shows daily if I don't get to them. It's probably because I'm on another show, and then I can always put this on my channel. But like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it, guys.